Hello, Mavs fans. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. I'm Kirk Henderson, joined by Josh Bowe. We are both editors over at MavsMoneyball.com. We are coming to you a little after 11 o'clock on Tuesday, December 10th. The Dallas Mavericks just fell in the quarterfinals of the NBA Cup. Their 7-game win streak coming skidding to a halt, losing to the Oklahoma City Thunder 118-104. Josh, how are you?
Doing okay. Not a super fun game to watch for a variety of reasons that we are going to get into, but haven't talked to you in a while because I know I was off Saturday and then they got 2 days off. So crappy that I have to come back. Maybe I'm the jinx. I jinxed it by coming back and doing the podcast so they lost, but I don't know if I'm just gonna forewarn. I'm not gonna get like doom and gloomy on this podcast. Obviously, like it's not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things. But there's just not gonna be a lot of nice things to say about this game. It was just it was not a good game.
Nope. And if you're the kind of fan that is quite, and this is a reasonable way to be, if you're like, look, it's one game out of 82, see you out there next time. I get it. Just there was a level of expectation around this game because the NBA has assigned value to it. The players have determined that it does have value. They have turned something that was ostensibly, and granted, all this it's sports. It's all meaningless. Eat at Arby's, but they assign value to a thing, and so we all got excited about it. And the Mavericks really just threw up an egg, and we're going to need to break it down, and it's not going to be all that fun. It's just not going to be fun. And so this is, our after losses, our people tend to just skip stuff. I get it. Yeah. So the short story of this game is the Mavericks started out pretty early. They got up to a 9-2 lead, but then it became a game of runs. The first half Mavericks were as sloppy and stupid of a basketball team as we've seen them roll out on the floor collectively this season. Now, keep in mind, they've only lost 9 games, and of those 9 games prior to tonight, they've lost 8 of those games by a combined 39 points. So they've actually played really well for most of the season. So it's not some big insult to be like, that was a very bad half of basketball. They had 11 turnovers in the first half, and half of which were quite literally the Mavericks looking at a Thunder player and passing it to them. Luka, of all people, was short on long passes to kick to guys running out, and you just don't see that. And there were things that happened in this game tonight which we've just not seen a lot of. And the fact that it came on national television and the only game that was being broadcast at that time of night is it reminds me of things that we saw in the early parts of last season where the Mavericks were just underperforming. And I hate that. I hate it because, the people who are in your life that don't like the Mavericks, that don't like Luka, that don't like, Jason Kidd, whatever, will use a game like that as a reason to tell you why the Mavericks suck. And the other 15 wins that they've had this season just sort of get thrown out the window when a game like this one happens. The first half was ugly. And the Mavericks yet were still only down by 3. The Thunder scored so many points off of turnovers. It was crazy. The second half, and then the second half, the Mavericks came out and I want to table this. I want to table my thought here. The second half, the Mavericks came out and played very poor.
Yes.
They finally found life for about 3 minutes in the fourth. Mm-hmm. Cut the Thunder lead, which was up to 20, down to 10 in about 5 possessions, because the Thunder, which had effectively double teamed Luka for much of the game, Luka found some openings, and the Mavericks made some shots, and so the game got down to 10, got down to 8, and then the Thunder blew the lead up again, and then the Mavericks were done. That's kind of the game. So.
Yeah. It's a bizarre, Kirk, if I told you the Mavericks outshot the Thunder from the field overall, percentage-wise, outshot the Thunder percentage-wise on threes, and then they made 7 more free throws. If I told you that before the game, they would have a higher field goal percentage, a higher 3-point field goal percentage, and they would additionally make 6 7 more free throws, you would be like, okay, they probably won, and they lost by 14. So, the game was literally lost 2 reasons: turnovers and threes. The Thunder made 20 3-pointers. They shot 50. They got them up, and the Mavericks, you look at the team numbers, and it was 19 to 14, turnovers, which 19 is a lot. And that's starting to become an issue with these Mavericks, where it didn't used to be an issue. But like 5 more turnovers doesn't feel like a lot. The problem is those turnovers were almost all catastrophic turnovers.
Catastrophic live ball turnovers.
Yes. Yeah. And the thing about playing against the Thunder is they lead the NBA in steals. They lead the NBA in deflections. So you bake in, even if you play a relatively clean game, they're going to get you, right? Like, you have to come in with an expectation like, hey, this team is going to turn us over a little bit. They're really good at it. So let's control what we can control, because obviously they're going to have some moments where they get the ball and they're going to get transition. And the Mavericks had some inexplicable decision making in this game. Luka had 2 awful turnovers going for the full court.
See, I don't hate those. I don't hate touchdown pass turnovers, because we bitch when Luka doesn't push the ball or kick it ahead, and then when he does kick it ahead and their turnovers, we bitch. He's kind of screwed either way in that regard. The challenge with those touchdown passes is, for a person who is as pinpoint accurate as Luka, those were bad.
Yeah, I mean, they were bad. I guess I don't knock the attempt, mate, but I mean, they were just bad. They had no chance. Like when he threw it, the way we watch on TV, we don't see when he's throwing the ball. We don't see who he's throwing it to until the ball gets there, and the camera has to follow it. Yep. And the camera gets there, and it's not like it was there and the Thunder made a great play. They were just bad pass. They were just really bad passes. And Grimes had some inexplicable ones. Kyrie had a couple that were pretty bad. It was just, that was the thing. It wasn't like the Mavericks were being aggressive and the Thunder just like stripped them. And it was like bad passes that would have been resulted in turnovers no matter who they were playing against is kind of more my point. And when you do that, then you're done. Like, you're done against this Thunder team. You just can't have that many self-inflicted wounds when you know that on top of the self-inflicted wounds, the Thunder are just going to take the ball away from you anyway a certain amount of times, because they're that good of a defense.
They're that good. They're really good defensively. Yeah. And there was a lot of, and this was well beyond Luka, there was a lot of Mavs.
It was team wide. Yeah.
Like, and it's just like, guys, like, I'm sorry. Like, hold on to the ball. Like, Najee at one point just like lost the ball on the dribble, and he's bitching about getting bumped. And it's like, I'm sorry, buddy. Hold on to the ball. Sorry.
Grimes had a turnover where he threw it to like no one.
Grimes had a drunk quarter. His first quarter is to me one of the hallmarks of why this game was bad, because he was catastrophically awful in that first quarter.
Yep. Yeah. It was not great. And the Thunder felt like the Thunder paid back the Mavericks for the playoff series for all the missed 3, because they did not shoot well in that playoff series. And it was like, all right, they got it out of their system in this game. That's for sure. Because they were making,
guys just look great, man. I mean, and
that's going to happen against a team that likes to shoot threes. That is a good 3-point shooting team.
They play a more, I don't want to say they play similar to the Celtics, but they have a better, in my opinion, a better on-ball focal point in SGA than anybody that the Celtics have, with a less competent shooting structure surrounding SGA. That's not to say that the Thunder aren't competent. It's that the Celtics are all universe with the guys that they have shooting the ball. But you get up 50 shots from 3, and some of them, if they're even if they're coming from less, a Lou Dort hitting 3 of 7. You're fine with it. I mean, SGA was 5 of 9 from 3. That dude never takes 9 3-pointers. Caruso even got up 6 shots. Isaiah Joe getting up his buckets. It's just it's a math game, and the Mavericks lost it. And I how far into the show are we now? We're about 10 minutes into the show. I want to talk about at least the first part of why I think the Mavericks lost this game. And I said it at the end of the last podcast, where Sudarshan, myself, and who else was with us? Why is my brain breaking? Michael was with us, and I questioned out loud, and of course got quasi aggregated for it, whether organizationally the Mavericks had an interest in winning the game. And of course, you put something like that on Twitter and people just start yelling at you because it's like, oh, they always want to win. Absolutely. The Mavericks always want to win, but are they going to give away the farm to win? Are they going to put everything? Is Kid going to put everything on the line to win this game? And PJ didn't play. And I bet if this is a playoff game, PJ plays, whether he's sick or not. Maybe not Maxey. And also second, Dallas Mavericks, can we please have everybody wash our hands? Can we
get our flu shots?
Can we get our flu shots? Can we get the training staff to wipe everything down with Lysol spray and wipes? Because guys, viruses linger on surfaces. I don't know if you know this. When my child had what's called hand, foot, and mouth disease, you clean off every surface every day, sometimes repeatedly, because the virus is just so easy to swap around. The fact that every single player on this team but Luka has been sick is fucking crazy to me. Never mind. But that is what it is. Bad luck. Maybe they'll figure it out the second half of the year. But the Mavericks came out to me. This is what I saw, and I'm very curious to see what you saw. They came out with the intention of running their basic sets, their basic offense, and if the shots went down and they put away the Thunder, great. If they didn't, they weren't going to show anything interesting. And to me, up until about maybe the 7-minute mark of the fourth quarter, I didn't see the Mavericks do a single interesting thing this game outside of maybe a few out of timeout possessions and they're pretty good out of timeouts. What am I crazy for this take?
Yeah, no, I mean, and it felt like it kind of bled through everything. Like it was a very vanilla game plan.
Yes.
Attached to a very vanilla effort. It was
Talk
almost
about this, please.
Yeah, I mean, it was very low intensity effort game. And I don't know if it's a chicken or the egg scenario. Does the game plan beget the effort, or is it vice versa? I don't know what is spurring the other. But it did not look like a team that was just this was technically an elimination game in a basketball tournament, and the vibe and the body language and the intensity that I saw from the team on the floor did not reflect that this was a win or go home type game. Not at all. I mean, it was very much a going through the motions. That's why I talked about some of that inexplicable decision making that led to some of the really bad turnovers on top of there's no such thing as a good turnover, but the ones where the Thunder earned them, there are a lot of unforced turnovers. The rebounding was pretty bad early on, and especially against the Thunder. I know they have Isaiah Hartenstein back, who they didn't have in the first matchup, and he made a load of difference. I mean, holy crap, the Thunder with a legitimate center is kind of terrifying when you consider how much they've made do without one, and relying on Chet Holmgren to basically play the 5 full time last season. To have a guy that's not only okay, but is really good, a really good center. And Hartenstein, he fits this team like a glove, and he played really well. But even then, the Mavericks are mostly bigger than the Thunder's perimeter players, and they still they didn't get bullied. I don't know if they got bullied on the boards, but the Mavericks just didn't attack. The Mavericks. I know.
The glass is something
Daniel Gafford had 2 rebounds in 16 minutes.
You cannot get out rebounded by the Oklahoma City Thunder.
I know.
The Oklahoma City Thunder, that is their, if they have a weak point, it is rebounding. And the Mavericks got crushed on the offensive board.
Yeah, they're last in rebounding, this Oklahoma City. And it's almost by design. I don't think they care. I think it's a math thing again. They think it's not important. Yeah, they're fine with it. But to lose that category so decisively to a team that isn't trying to win it that's reflective of the effort level I think that was given.
Yeah.
And again, is it the game plan? Did they know that this was a vanilla game, so they gave vanilla effort? Also, and even the local broadcast has brought this up a lot, and the national broadcast actually brought it up tonight. The travel, did the injuries, did the travel, and then the game plan,
sure,
did that all combine, and did it just put in their heads, okay, this is just not, no PJ, no Maxey, we're not rolling out, a playoff level game plan, and we're all tired as hell because we've gone from the West Coast to the East Coast to Canada, to Texas, back to the West Coast, back to like they've done this crazy travel schedule for 2 weeks. Like it just felt like it was the culmination of everything. Like it didn't look like a team that wanted to be there. And I'm not trying to say that as like, how dare they? And the season's falling apart. It just looked like a natural inflection of all this crap that they've been able to just push off, and they got that 7-game win streak. Well, now they're playing against one of the, best 3 teams in the NBA, best 2 teams.
Right.
It's, they couldn't keep pushing it aside against a team that's this good.
Losing to the potentially that, let's just call them the second best team in the NBA, because I think that's what they are record wise. There's no shame in that. I just think if you're frustrated with how they performed tonight, you have reasons.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not kicking and screaming and yelling. If anything, I'm just mad at people telling me I'm a motherfucker and what somebody called me a fat midget, which was really funny. Some of the
you are many things, but you're not short.
Right. And so it's just, and I don't know, but it's like, it's for having these positions, which are, so I do say wild shit, but like the assumption that the Mavericks care more about the NBA title than the NBA Cup is not a wild take. It's just not. Like the fact that Luka cares more about the title than the MVP or something like that is not a wild take. And I don't. We're reaching an inflection point in the season, which is why Jason Gallagher and I had that podcast yesterday. I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to it. Just kind of.
I did, by the way. I wanted to shout it out. It was great. It was really, that was like a great listen. I thought.
I hope so. I hoped we were fair to anybody, every single person's point of view, from the anti-Jokic people to the staunchest Luka supporters to people that are Mavs fans first. Like I want to value everybody's point of view in this regard, but I don't know. Tonight's game was a frustrating game that I think once it was clear the Mavericks were making the cup, I had a fear that was lingering in the back of my mind the whole time, and I hated that it went down very similarly to what I thought. Okay, we got to take care of some business here. So guys, as you all know, we have a sponsor. Sponsor is called Bodyspec, and what Bodyspec does is they provide what are known as DEXA scans. It's a full body composition scan. They'll help you understand what's going on with your body. If you're a person with a desk job like Josh and I, whether you're an athlete or more, you have a job that's more active, or if you're just really thinking about getting back into shape, a DEXA scan is a great way to get started. If you'll head into the show notes and click the Bodyspec link, you'll see what I'm talking about. We have a holiday special promo code right now, PODMAVS45 in all caps. That'll get you $15 off your first single scan. It's a great idea for a gift, and it's really a great idea for yourself. Josh and I have both now had one, and it's gotten us some real information that's really quite like obnoxiously usable. Like it's just sort of lived in my brain. And we're going to take a second here and actually talk about our experience with this, which is it's the business side of this. So I appreciate you sticking with this. Josh, tell me a little bit about your experience going and getting a scan.
Yeah. So I think the difference is you went to the brick and mortar, like flagship store. I did because you live relatively close enough, or you just felt like you wanted. I think you said you just.
I just didn't want to work that afternoon, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to drive. I'm going to drive to Love Field, like it's right all the way down there, and found the place. Walked in, laid on a table, and got a scan. Yep,
and I did the same thing, but in a van in a parking lot outside of a shopping mall, which sounds kind of weird. And
no, you have to tell us what your mother said, because I think it's
are our sponsors going to hate us?
Because it is like it's getting over the hump with this. It's a bit of an odd thing.
So we're a 1-car family right now because at the time, me and my wife both worked from home, and we were like, hey, why do we need 2 cars? And then my wife now has a job where she's in office. So when she's at work, I don't have a car. So I needed to get this done because on the weekends, it's just impossible. There's just not enough time. So, felt like I was 15, called my mom and was like, can I have a ride? And, she helped me out. My mom is a boomer from the Bronx, New York, Italian American. And she fits every single a stereotype that you can imagine for that. And so we're pulling up, and she's like, "Where is this place?" Because she's kind of driving towards like the store, like the shopping center, because she thinks it's in the store. I'm like, "No, it's that van in the parking lot," and just
it's a labeled van, right?
Yeah, no, it's very clear. There's nothing shady about it. But my mom just was like, "What the f is this? Is this a scam? I'm gonna, do I need to call the cops?" Was another thing she said. When I got done. She went, "Oh, thank God you're done. I was going to call the cops. I had no idea what was going on in there," even though I told her repeatedly what was happening.
How long did it take?
It took about 10 minutes.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's about as long as it took you when you lay down. Yeah. It's very easy. You just lay there. I mean, I closed my, the person.
I kind of nodded off.
Yeah. The person that was there was talking to me and I talked back. He was very polite, but I just, I took a little siesta, just closed my eyes and relaxed. Very easy. I got there, in and out. Got my results, I think, almost before I got back home. Like, I want to say I got my results in an email before I got back home.
Yeah.
Had some instant results. Like, he told me a couple of things right when it was done. And then he was like, "Your full results will be sent a little bit later." And it was painless. Like, I just walked up, "Are you Josh?" "Yes." Step into my van. Yep. Okay. And just lay down on this padded long bench kind of thing. And it was comfortable. It was painless. And then I'm on my way. I mean, it probably took, including driving there and back, it took like 15, 20 minutes out of my day. So it was very easy.
So we actually had a listener, a guy call into Mavs Party who had done one of these. And he was just like, "Yeah, it's like, they're great." And they are great insofar as like providing you a good baseline. So it's like, everybody on this show who listens regularly knows that I work out like a fiend.
You do.
But I also eat like an idiot because I want to. And so for the past several years, I've worked on getting myself in better shape, and I am in better shape. But what this has kind of informed me is that and I knew this, but it's one thing to see. It's one thing to know it. It's another thing to read the information about it. It's like, all right, you need to make some changes, meaning me. And I will say, depending on how you process information, there's something really stark in just seeing it and saying, okay, all right, these are things these are things that I can try to do differently. And what I would recommend to any one of our listeners is, if you're thinking about making that sort of lifestyle change and just getting yourself together, go get a try. It's not very expensive. The thing about this sort of health stuff, guys, is you pay for it now or you pay for it later.
Yes, definitely.
So I'm just going to plug it one more time. It's Bodyspec, and there's a link in the show notes and in the video notes. And we really appreciate you guys taking the second just to listen to us talk about this.
Yeah. And one more thing, the guy, my attendant, said, since it is December and we are getting close to New Year's resolution time.
Yes.
Apparently, if you want to go get it done now, because they will be booked up a lot in January.
That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to get one again, but it's like, I'm going through the holiday stuff, and it's just like I took one.
You really want to know after you eat holiday food?
I took one before eating Thanksgiving. It's like an idiot. Anyways, all right. So we're gonna plug in some commercials here for Blue Wire, and then we'll be right back. Thanks so much for letting us talk to you guys about this. Okay, we're back. So there are some interesting things to take away from this, and I think that the thing that made me laugh the hardest is the person I've been the most annoyed by making probably the biggest difference to the Mavericks energy level. And that was Olivier Maxence Prosper, who played 12 minutes. He was a +4, one of the few Mavericks with a plus. He's the only Maverick with a plus rating now that I'm looking through it. He hit 2 of 2 3-point shots and provided the kind of insane energy that we used to see Josh Green inject into games sometimes. And the Mavericks needed it. And I felt like Kid pulled him almost immediately after his second three. Like, I was dying. Where I'm sitting here making all these proclamations about how I think Kid wants to put things in his war chest to where he can only break them out later. Maxey hits a three, the Mavericks make a run, and Maxey gets pulled right out of the game. Max, sorry, not Maxey. What's wrong with me? What did you think about his play?
Oh, I thought it was great. I mean, he hit 2 threes in a regular season NBA game, which I'm not gonna look at his numbers, but I gotta assume that's the first time he's ever done that. Has hit multiple threes in a regular season NBA game. So that was great. And it was just like because they need like no Maxey, no PJ. That's it. They don't have another forward that can come off the bench. Like it's Powell who plays mostly center. And that's it. Kessler Edwards, two-way guy, Markieff Morris, who's, your end of the bench, veteran voice, like he doesn't play. So like that's it. So like with both of, they needed someone to fill the gap and he did. And you got to commend him for it. And hopefully, if PJ and Maxey come back, I don't know if this is a path to him getting more minutes, but hopefully he gets rewarded some, I want to see this earn him another chance, and then if he plays poorly, you yank him and you do what you got to do. But I hope he has an ability to follow up on this, regardless of the health of PJ and Maxey.
I think they have to.
They got to try to build on it because
they have to. Yeah. Because Maxi Kleber is the Mavericks' unreliable narrator. He is very valuable to what the Mavericks do, but he is the bionic man at this point. And I don't think it's fair to put that kind of pressure on a guy who just can't apparently physically do it enough. So Maxey being useful would be extraordinarily important to the Mavericks, like just season long ability to make plays and withstand stuff.
Yeah. I mean, oh my gosh, Kirk, did you read Maxey Prosper in this game made as many threes as Maxey has made on the season? I'm not joking.
Sounds about right. Yeah, no, not a shock.
Maxey has 2 threes. He's 2 of 9 from 3 this season, and 238 minutes.
And so Max hit 2 of them. That's incredible.
Yes,
it's really incredible.
So yeah, he was definitely the only, him and maybe Clay were like the only bright spots of this game. Yeah. Oh, and Najee was pretty good as well. Who hilariously he can't stop missing 3-pointers after he couldn't throw one if he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. And then he makes that crazy running 3-pointer at the end of the shot clock. And since then he's shooting like 50% from 3 in like 6 games, which
just is bananas.
I know sports is weird.
I do want to point out something I did like. So somebody I think it was Fresh Prince on it. Somebody earlier was talking about, or Andrea in the chat said, Luka off ball. That was good. But Luka off ball in the fourth quarter had Luka involved actions. And that's the big difference. And the thing that the Mavericks have to figure out leverage points and get some more usage out of that without showing all their cards. Because like we saw Luka as a honest to God screener with role situations. And we've been clamoring for that for 7 years. And I don't think we've rarely seen it. Like
when he screens, it's usually just to help set up a mismatch, like screens for Kyrie so that Kyrie can get a worse defender on him, or a smaller defender, bigger, whatever it is. Like usually his screening is more purposeful for just setting up isolation mismatches for Kyrie to go bum hunting. We don't see a lot of him rolling into space and making a pass, but he did that to Lively for that alley-oop attempt, and unfortunately Lively got kind of hacked on his way up to try to catch that pass.
And the pass is a little bit off, and it didn't work out.
Okay.
But that's the sort of stuff you see Golden State in their heyday doing with Draymond all the time.
Right.
And it has vexed us for years that the Mavericks either don't do it, don't ask Luka to do it, don't put themselves in the position to do it. And I think in the years past, it's because they haven't had the ball handling. So I think that's okay.
You can't move him off ball because who's gonna run the screen for him to set the screen?
Because up until that point, Luka was essentially getting face guarded by Lou Dort. He was 1 of 9 at one point in the game. He finished 5 of 15. Yeah.
Yep.
So he hit 4 of his next 6 shots. And
it was a bad game. We can say it was
a bad game, but the things that were happening to Luka in this game, if this were a playoff game, I would expect Jason Kidd to make a bigger deal out of it. Like, I don't want to act like the refs were a part of this game because they weren't. They just weren't. The Mavs got the Thunder were called for more fouls. The Mavs shot more free throws. But the stuff that's happening to Luka off ball is not fucking basketball. It's just not. And Luka's not going to bitch about it. He's not going to say anything post game. But like you cannot. There is a clip, and I can play it if I can find it again. Let me just see if I can pull this up here.
I'm sure it's in Slack, right?
It might be.
It's in Slack. I know it is.
Is it?
Yeah, I think our trusted
Matthew was having a great time with this, and like it's getting played over and over. I'll just put it in our thing here, and then I'll put it up for everybody to see. Wrong link. Just I'm really good on the fly. This is why having a producer might actually be helpful at some point. Share screen here. So you watch this, and we'll just pull it up, and let's just maximize it here on the screen. So. You are not allowed to do that far away from the basket. Like you're just not. And I don't want to sit there and act like that's the difference in the game because it wasn't. But if you are face guarding someone with your hands on them, like you're blocking as an offensive lineman, at some point or another, somebody has to make a deal of it. Now, the second thought about this is, hey, Mavericks, why don't you do something different to run Luka off some screens and do anything to get him going? Dallas didn't do that
until that little stretch in the fourth quarter.
Yes. And so to me, that's actually the more important element of this because you can control what you can control. And the Mavericks opted to not make that a thing. And that's not a criticism in so much as it is like, that's
what happened.
Game plan. That's what happened.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I'm with you. It didn't look like it looked like, because the Thunder blitz Luka a lot and put 2 on the ball a lot, which teams have not done to the Mavericks that much because Luka absolutely destroys it. Right. And it didn't really work. It finally, this is one of the first times I feel like that defensive strategy has paid off for a team in a while.
Well, you know why it pays off because they actually have the defender quality to be able to cover the ground.
Right.
I mean, it's nice if you have Case and Wallace just hanging as a free safety.
Yeah,
you're playing 4-on-3.
But it looks like they kind of were like, Luka will make the right play to the double team. Like that was the game. That was the game plan. Not like
he did have some when they cut it to 10. When they cut it to 10, he for some reason stopped right after half court and got doubled, and he has the half court line behind him, so there's nowhere for him to go. And he throws like an overhead pass that goes over both of them that basically bullet curves to whoever caught the pass, and then it swung on rotation. Like Luka just does stuff every game that makes you go, fuck.
I know. It's ridiculous. But yeah. It was he didn't have a great game, and the Thunder's defensive game plan was certainly let's let anyone kill us but Luka. And no one really did. Like the Mavericks made 41% of their threes, but outside of Najee and Clay, Kyrie kind of woke. Like Kyrie had a good game, finished with a good shooting line, but like he was also kind of for about 3 quarters or so, and then he woke up in the fourth. But you look at live, like the big thing for me, like I said online something like I don't have a lot of big takeaways from this game. The Mavericks just kind of played like ass and lost to a really good team. And someone was like, well, how do you not have takeaway? And it's like, well, it's because like I don't think I saw anything from this game that necessarily like this is troubling. Like it just looked like a team that was disinterested because of whatever various circumstances, injuries, the travel schedule, the game plan, whatever the circumstances were, they just weren't into this game, and that's going to happen. Again, this is only the second time all season they've lost by double-digit points, first time since the second game of the season. So they've gone a really long stretch without a team kind of kicking their ass a little bit, which is commendable, and that's the mark of a good team, is not getting blown out a lot. But the only thing that I would look at this game and be like, and kind of arch my eyebrow and want to I want to see something here, is the ineffectiveness of Lively and Gafford, which was so stark because
about Lively. Talk me through this, because Lively finishes with 5 points and 13 boards and 5 assists. So talk to me about why he was ineffective, because I agree.
I think defensively, he did rebound pretty well and he passed pretty well in the pick and roll, but defensively, I did not feel him maybe at all. I think he had 1 block. That was really the only defensive play I noticed him really causing, severe impact. And the Thunder just outshot those guys off the floor. That was one of the concerns going into the matchup last playoffs, was the Thunder were such a prolific 3-point shooting team. You're like, okay, well, how does how do Lively and Gafford stay on the floor? And what happened was the Mavericks kind of let their, they were like, we'll let Lou Dort shoot threes and we'll let our bigs kind of rampage in the paint and we're going to win. Well, Lou Dort made his threes but Lively didn't really, the Thunder don't go to the rim a lot. And like, so if you're playing against a team that's like, we don't really want to score in the paint, like where is Lively's defensive impact going to come from? The Thunder scored 38 points in the paint and they were fine with that. Like that wasn't necessarily the Mavericks crushing them into low paint point. Like the Thunder were very much like, we want to drive and kick and shoot threes. And it's like, okay, so where does Lively make his presence known defensively? Because he's still not great on switches, which again, he's a 7-7-1 center. He doesn't have to be like, that shouldn't necessarily be an expectation. But I just noticed in rotations, I saw a lot of Lively running out late to a shooter and just having to cover a lot of ground.
This is stuff I don't understand about the game plan defensively, where it's like, the Mavericks are fine giving up like open threes to good shooters. They took a lot of open shots tonight, man.
They did. Yeah. And it didn't look like guys really knew where they wanted to be. And again, when you've got a team that doesn't want to pressure the rim that much, like I just like where is Lively going to make plays on defense? He's not going to make them out on the perimeter. Maybe you trap a little bit more and use Lively's quick feet and you trap and you try to make it up on the back line. But it's hard for this Mavericks team to trap, because do you want to trap when you've got Luka, Clay, and Kyrie behind the trap and force those guys to make a bunch of long make a bunch of long defensive plays where you got to cross the court a lot? And when Luka and Kyrie have the offensive load that they do, like, do you really want to put extra miles on them by having to like help and rotate behind a trap? Like, I don't think the coaching staff wants that either. So yeah, they're going to have to figure that out. They're going to have to look at this game and be like, is this just a shooting variance night, or has OKC done something to us and to our bigs that we need to like readjust and look at this?
I mean, the step number one is the next time I see the next time I see freaking Daniel Gafford in drop against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, like, that needs to not happen ever again. Like, I saw his ass drop like 6 times, and each time it's like a layup. Shai is amazing. Like, a 12-foot to 15-foot jumper is a layup for him. I mean, he was 18 to 23. Like, what?
Yeah, 15 to 23.
15 to 23 from the floor. What are you doing, guys?
I know. And the Thunder only shot 16 shots in the restricted area.
Yeah, and most of them were by him. So it's like, I don't know. I was. And so did they double Shai a lot? Because in the post-game interview, I heard the Ali LaForge or whatever her name is, like, interviewing him and being like, you were seeing a lot of doubles tonight. And like, I don't remember seeing any doubles.
Yeah, I'd have to rewatch it. I don't remember that being a big part of the game plan.
Like, there were all sorts of switches and he abused switches. Like, I thought that Lively in particular got his ass kicked, but I don't actually think he was doing anything wrong. I think the SGA is a better player. So
right, you don't necessarily want Lively switch.
Like, there was one where he drove from the left wing across his body and hit one off of like the top of the backboard on a right-handed like kind of scoop layup that was just breathtaking. And it's like, all right.
And this is where no PJ Washington, you really felt that, because
that's true.
He's your most athletic forward. Like, Najee is a good defender. Quentin Grimes, a good defender. Like, they don't have another 6'7" springboard forward on the roster besides PJ. Like, they just don't. That plays a lot of minutes. So you look at the starting lineup, and it's Lively, but then Kyrie, Luka, Clay, Grimes. Grimes is a pretty good defender, but he's 6'4" guard. They just didn't have the rotations and closeouts just weren't the same without and PJ's a defensive madman. Like, he is someone that you can use to trap, or he is someone you could use to play the back line when Lively is trapping and you feel like you still got the rim covered, or you've got someone that can close out with length and try to bother shooters. They just didn't have that guy tonight. And I think I've been making the case that PJ is an all defense candidate, and the Mavericks defense did not look great tonight when he was not on the floor.
I mean, but even if PJ is in the game, you take Shai from shooting 15 of 23 to maybe 12 of 23. Like, that doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, that's true.
this is where the adjustment element of this came in, because it didn't feel like Dallas. They're just like, okay, we're not going to do anything different. And I hate that, because I would have liked to have won this game. I really would have. Like, I would rather the Mavericks win every game. And
it's
so
much better for us.
You know, I mean, it's just more fun to talk about. Like, you don't want to talk about like mistakes were made and anything like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the way they played this game, it was just like, I even said it in Slack. I was like, why? I don't want to watch. Like, when it was the third quarter and they're down 20. And again, it's not, they're allowed to lose games. Like, this isn't that. It's the way it didn't feel like they wanted to be there. They wanted to win the game. So it's like, if they don't want to do that, why am I staying up late to talk about them in a game that they didn't really, try to win until, there's 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter or whatever. So it makes it harder to talk about, because what scheme stuff are we talking about tonight? Because they didn't do anything. Like, they played a vanilla defense. They played a vanilla offense. Their stars did not have clean games, although one had a much cleaner game than the other. Kyrie was obviously much better than Luka tonight, but Kyrie was still not the force that he can be, and Luka had one of his worst games of the season, and that's the game. Like, like I said, the only like tactical thing I would take away from this game or want to look at more is just, did the Thunder figure something out with Lively and Gafford in terms of neutralizing their impact? Because again, those two have been destroying the Thunder for the better part of the last 6 year for the most part. So is this just a flash in the pan in terms of the Thunder got hot from three, or is there something here that they can sustain this when these teams potentially meet again in a playoff series? Yeah, I don't know. You gonna do a live show, or?
I'm awake. Why not? We'll
Okay.
let some people get some takes off.
But I don't think I have any more takes. Do you have any more takes?
No. I don't know when the Mavericks play again, and that like fundamentally vexes me, because the only way I stay sane during the season is being able to like plan like what's happening when, both with my job, my kids, and everything. And the Mavericks' next game on the schedule is on the 21st, which is just they're going to play again. I don't know how. I do not remember how this stuff works. I really don't.
Yeah, it looks like Tyler in our Slack said, if Houston beats Golden State tomorrow night, Mavs will be in Golden State on either the 15th or the 16th. If Golden State wins, Mavs will host the Rockets on either the 15th or the 16th.
Okay. I mean, the Mavericks I think they're ahead.
They get a couple days.
The Mavericks are at least one game up compared to a lot of teams anyway heading into this.
They're going to get some days off.
Yeah. So, it is.
I mean, that's the silver lining, by the way. They are going to get more days off now. Because they lost, so they're gonna get some rest. Maybe that was all part of the plan, Kirk. They wanted some rest.
Well, it's like last year the Mavericks lost so bad in the early games that they got extra games against Portland and Utah. So now the extra games get to be against Golden State or the Rockets.
Houston,
That's neat. Oh well, this stuff is what it is. Okay, I'm gonna hang out and we'll do a group therapy. Not done one of those in a little bit, anyways. I'll post it in the chat right now, and anybody that's welcome to join. And yeah, we'll talk and hang out. So, Josh, thank you so much for spending some of your evening with us. I'll let you go edit and because I forgot to post the recap, so I don't even know. David said he was turning that in, so you'll get to have fun.
I'll get it. Don't worry.
Yay! All right, thanks, man. We'll talk soon, guys. Everybody, we'll be right back. So please go ahead and hang out and go Mavs. Good evening, Mavs fans. Welcome to Pod Maverick Presents Group Therapy, the show where we all join together and bitch incessantly about whatever it is that is on our minds in relation to these Dallas Mavericks. They just lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder, 118-104. They got pretty thoroughly whooped. not a lot of positives to take from this game. So if you have them, I am very interested in hearing them. For those new to the show or listening live on the YouTube stream, you can click on the StreamYard link. That is the pinned comment. I welcome anybody up here if you have interesting things to say. If you're a keyboard warrior that wants to stay behind and talk shit, no, we don't. I don't play that around here. Please feel free to come up here and actually talk. That's what I'm interested in. My friend Simon, what's going on, man?
Kirk, it's your favorite DC resident.
It's 1 a.m. your time. What in the world? What's going on?
25 games in, I'm finally making an appearance this season. It's great to be on. It's great to be on with you. Wish it could be under better circumstances, but appreciate it as always.
Sure, let's get your takes off. I want to hear them.
Okay, so I actually played basketball tonight, so I didn't start watching the game until about beginning of the third quarter.
Okay, so you saw when things went from to bleak.
Yeah, and then the fourth quarter they made a little mini run there when Shea was on the bench, and then they brought Shea back in, and that was the end of that.
Yep.
So I listened to the pod you did with Jason Gallagher yesterday about Luka, and the MVP narrative and stuff like that. Okay, and I want to preface it by saying this: I am a huge Luka fan. I started following him, probably back in 2016. At the time, I was living in Philly, so me and my buddies up there, we were all looking up draft prospects, as that was like during the height of the process era Sixers. And I learned about Luka, and I started following him. I was like, wow, this is really interesting because of what he was doing at that age in Real Madrid. I actually bought a EuroLeague subscription for his last season, so I watched a bunch of his games and kind of carried over to the NBA when he started. Watched his first couple games as a rookie, and then everything just kind of took off, and I've been following him ever since. And I got involved with this Dallas Mavericks community, which, by the way, is great. So I'm a huge Luka fan, and I want to see him succeed. But when I was listening to your pod, I think you and Jason, and you're welcome to kind of go back and forth with me. You guys talked a lot about the narrative surrounding Luka and the MVP conversation. The truth of the matter is like, yes, last year he played at an MVP caliber level. And like, what does he have to do to win the MVP? Well, he's got to be better than Jokic, and thus far he just hasn't. So, but what does he have to do to get to that level? I think Luka, when he's rolling and he's at his best, he's as good as anybody. The problem that he's run into, aside from any media narratives, is he just. And again, we're holding him to a very high standard, right? We're holding him to an MVP level standard.
Yep, top 3 player standard. Yep,
he just has too many stinkers, and Jokic just does not have stinkers. SGA does not have stinkers. Giannis doesn't really have stinkers. Like their stinkers are like an SGA stinker is 8 for 19 or 8 for 20. A Jokic stinker is 7 for 15. A Giannis stinker is like 10, 5 for 15 from the foul line. But Luka has these games where he's want to go 6 for 22 with 5 turnovers or 6 turnovers. Or on a night like tonight, it just seems to me that yes, Oklahoma City was doubling him at half court, but and I said this in a lot of the playoffs last year, when teams do that to him, he seems content to just pass out of it and let the other guys play 4-on-3 and doesn't make an effort to really get back involved in the play. Now, he has like the numbers say, and this is true, that his percentage of field goals assisted, his field goals it's
as low as it's as high as it's been since he's been in the NBA.
It's as high as it's been, and I think that's a stylistic adjustment.
Sure.
On driven by the coaching staff and maybe by Luka himself. I think Luka I don't think he's a selfish player by any stretch of the imagination. I think he wants to play unselfishly. He wants to make the pass and he wants to play team basketball. But he just does. He's still, and it will have possessions where he'll make a back cut or he'll come off with down screen and stuff like that. But the effort from him, and it's incumbent upon him as a superstar player and the best player on the Mavericks, is to make an every possession effort to involve himself when he does not have the basketball. Number one. Number two, I noticed, and I said this a lot, going back to the playoffs last year, I don't know whether it's an issue with his body, whether he's not in good enough shape, or whether he has a lower body injury. I mean, I know he had the calf injury before the start of the season, but he just does not seem determined to get to the basket consistently. And that's, irrespective of usage, right? I mean, you can lower your usage rate, you can lower your time with the ball, but for most of his career, he's been able to attack the basket like a demon. And that's really what separated him from a lot of his competition. He just doesn't do that anymore consistently.
Well, I think he has not done it this season. I was really sort of thinking about what is the defining Luka game to date. And it's probably a second. I just,
what is it?
Yeah, it's not really, nothing's really springing to mind. Now, honestly, the Mavericks are again 15-9. Like, that's okay. Like,
that's great.
That's not a criticism. It's just like, it means you've not needed the Luka heroics to be amazing. Somebody in the Mavs Moneyball chat described it. His name's Tyler. He described it tonight as Luka needs to establish the run early. And this is where I think in our previous podcast, Josh Bowe and I were criticizing the game plan, where the game plan seems to be, let's see what can happen and with our basic stuff. And if it doesn't go anywhere, we're just going to keep running it and hope that it works. Like, we're not going to adjust to what Oklahoma City does. And that's more or less what they did. I think Luka will be fine. I think Luka is fully capable of hitting a crazy 50-game stretch where he just blows everyone out of the water.
I think so too.
And I think the highs with Luka are higher than they are with Jokic and Shea and Giannis. But I do think the lows can be lower based off of his reactivity with how he plays. So that conversation, but keep in mind, one of the things I don't know if I emphasized this enough in that podcast, because Jason and I just kind of did that spur in the moment, is I was frustrated with already getting plunged into, like, because people, I don't know, one of the things people do is over-index social media sometimes, where it's like, these 100 voters that vote on this sort of stuff are not influenced by social media. They're influenced by their peers. And so the way their peers are discussing the Mavericks, I think, is pretty important. So it's like a voter like Kendrick Perkins dumping all over Luka is pretty frustrating. But, like, I'm not going to change Kendrick Perkins' mind. Like, that's not something I'm capable of doing. And so it's like, I was more interested in talking about the narrative because to date, Luka has played like a player on the outside half of the MVP ladder. And that's just the way it is. Now, I'm pretty sure everything is going to be great. I'm pretty sure Luka is going to make a run at the MVP anyway, because he last week he was player of the week because he shot 44% from three and had like 4 steals a game. Like, again, the standards he has set for us to be amazed by him are pretty high. And that's, and so he's really working against his own greatness in his own legacy, because he somehow has to both top how great he has been while also fighting a narrative, which is, I think, somewhat unfair, but also somewhat understandable. So that's kind of where, and tonight was just a game where it's like, right after we have this conversation, he didn't have a great game. It wasn't a terrible game, but again, the Mavericks did nothing. To me, I feel like the Mavericks didn't do anything to put him in a position to succeed. They just let Lou Dort take him out of the game, and Luka also let Lou Dort take him out of the game. Like, that was maddening.
Correct. And now, I got my thoughts are running all over the place. I do want to say where I do agree. I want to agree with you on 2 points. Number one is that Luka has set the bar high for himself, especially when you go back to his second year. I mean, he was playing at an MVP level in year 2 as a 20 or 21-year-old, right? And it's not where I will disagree with you a little bit is, like, I don't think there is necessarily immediate bias against Luka, because how many times has he been the MVP favorite coming into a season? At least 3. But that's all because of the expectations that he's put on himself, and he's simply played excellent when the expectation is that he's going to play he's going to be the best, instead of being the best player in the league, he's the third or fourth best player in the league. So from that aspect, he's been a quote unquote disappointment, right? But how can you be disappointed when you have the third or fourth best player in the league? The other thing I will agree with you on in the podcast that you did with Gallagher was about that MVP straw poll bullshit and how it won Embiid. How it did win Embiid the MVP that year, and he did not deserve it. And I'm actually an Embiid fan because I lived in Philly for 6 years. I love the guy. I mean, I can't really defend him now, but I get it because he was probably frustrated that he was playing at an MVP level for X amount of years. But then there's this guy in Denver who is just, I mean, he's as consistent as the morning sun, and that I think that's reflected in the advanced stats. And you guys talked about that also, right? Like the box plus minus and all that stuff. When you look at the Basketball Reference stuff, the reason I actually kind of lean toward box plus minus is it seems to weed out scrubs. like PER and win shares. You see guys do well those metrics that are scrubs, but very well do you see a guy have a high BPM.
Yeah,
that's a scrub. Okay, and
yeah.
I think and the correlation, and Andy Bailey talks about this a lot, is like correlation between the BPM leader and the MVP over the last 10 years is almost 1-to-1. So how does Luka improve himself in that metric? Well, not only is he not consistent from game to game, right? He has a stinker like he does tonight, but he's also like not very consistent possession to possession. Because even when he does get hot, when he if he makes 3 threes in a row, that fourth one's going up.
That was my criticism of the Toronto game. Like they had the Raptors on the ropes, and I'm not going to blame any one person.
It almost seems like he gets bored with the game sometimes.
I mean, when you're that good, doesn't surprise me.
Right, but that's the difference. But going back to a more micro level. The thing with Luka not attacking the basket, that it did. I noticed it last year, especially down the stretch, and it got worse in the playoffs. That was offset by the fact that he shot the 3 more than he ever did and better than he ever did. So it didn't really affect his overall efficiency. He just kind of readjusted his shot diet a little bit, but. There was a couple times, even the one where he got, where Dort fouled him in the fourth quarter and he banked it in. Like he didn't have any separation on that shot, because I don't think they're not playing him for the drive anymore. They don't the way the defense is playing him nowadays. It's like they don't expect him.
He's so burly and he's so strong that he just doesn't get body contact fouls anymore. And I hate that because I don't think that's fair.
I hate it too, but I also think part of that is his doing. And I have to be fair, right? And I love Luka, but it's twofold. Number one, the amount that he complains to the refs has to affect the whistle that he gets somewhat. And number two, he does try to initiate a lot of that contact to the point where the other habit that he does that drives me crazy is a lot of times when he drives and he reverse pivots and he has like an open fadeaway or an open turnaround jump shot, before he shoots it, a lot of times he'll just shot fake air and then shoot it. Mm-hmm. Because I think his initial inclination is like, okay, well, I created the space, now I'm going to throw the fake and the guy's going to jump, and then I'm going to jump into him and get the foul. And then the other thing is, I noticed a couple of games, I think it was maybe the Memphis game where I can't remember which game it was, but he got called for a foul on a 3 and he complained about it. He was like, or not complain, but he threw his hands up like, what the hell? But in my mind, I'm thinking if that was him shooting the 3 and he didn't get the foul, he'd be doing the same thing. So I don't think he has right now, he doesn't have any credibility with the officials. And that's hurting him.
Well, and he tonight was a good, there was a couple of times where he was pretty bitchy about fouls, but not too demonstrative. He also didn't argue any of his own foul calls, and I think that's an area where he normally gets crushed. He'll argue something where he's like, that wasn't a foul.
Or he puts his hands over his mouth and he does the high knees.
Very demonstrative.
He does the high knees and then he calls for the review.
Yeah, he didn't do
yeah.
that tonight. Every foul, he was like, me.
Look,
So.
and to kind of put a bow on this, I do anticipate that. I thought, if you remember, like I think it was not the season you were talking about, not the season after the bubble, but the season after that, right? The 21-22, the year they made the conference finals,
Yes.
Brunson's last year.
Yes.
He started off that year like ass. And then
quite candidly, Luka's two best starts were year 2
and year 5.
And year 5. I think that's
20,
right.
That the year after they made
then he just died on the vine because the Mavericks had no help.
He started that year like gangbusters
because they lost Brunson, and he had to.
Yeah,
he had
that
to.
Was,
You're right.
That was the best I've ever seen him play. Honestly, was that.
And then he burned out by Christmas because he was having to carry everyone.
He burned out a little bit. But the season I'm talking about was I think 21-22. He started off that year like ass, and that was the year where like everybody was getting was out for COVID, right? And they had they were having like G League teams out there, and Luka had COVID, quote unquote, and was out for like 3 weeks. And I always I think like he went to fat camp.
Yep.
Yeah. And I thought that's kind of what they were doing with his wrist injury. Now maybe he really does have a wrist injury, but I was like, okay, well, he's probably going to fat camp. Maybe he just needed a little bit more time, but goddamn, I'm hoping that he kind of, what I think is like, I think you make great points about the Mavericks coaching staff and what they need to do to get him a little bit more involved off the ball and change up the strategy. But you do make a great point about Kidd is like, he doesn't really, early in the season, he likes to let people figure it out, and he likes to just kind of go with whatever rotation, and then by the end of the season he can figure out his combinations and whatnot. But I think Luka, what it comes down to is he really has to dig deep into his personal pride and say, like, I can't let Shai Gilgeous-Alexander go out and
sure,
drop 39 on us while I'm over here and I'm just like, I'm passing off, and then I'm standing like he has to dig. He's got to dig deep.
My friend Robbie Calland, he's a freelance writer, or no, he writes for a site called Up Rocks, and he said the Mavericks need for all road games, the Mavericks need to pay a fan to sit baseline to talk shit to Luka. And
something, whatever. I mean,
it's a great idea.
I mean, whatever it takes, man. But I mean, he's in year 7 now. Like, he should. He at this point, if there's one criticism of him, he should be more consistent game to game, possession to possession, the way the top guys in the NBA are, who I would say are in no particular order. I mean, I would obviously have Jokic number 1, but like, then you go to Giannis, Luka, and Shai would be 2 through 4 in some order. But the only difference between Luka separating himself from that pack and getting into him and Jokic is just consistency. He's still not consistent game to game, possession to possession. But I will be watching the rest of the year, and I will be hoping for good outcomes, and hopefully sooner.
They'll be fine. They're a great team. They're great.
The Mavericks are good. The Mavericks are going to be good. The Mavericks have a very solid team, and they will be a top 4 seed with Luka playing at his current level. But if they want to, if they're actually going to seriously contend for a title, he needs to dig deep and he needs to be peak Luka, or else this thing is not going anywhere. It's not going to end the championship if Luka is not playing at an MVP level, and he's more than capable of doing it. And he's had, like you said, all these like 40 game stretches where he's just been bonkers. And so he's just got to dig deep and get there. And Kirk, thank you for letting me talk. Hopefully I'll
go to bed.
Talk to you soon.
Talk to you later.
All right, buddy.
All right, bye, man. Simon doesn't come on a lot, so he had a lot to say. Brian, what's up, buddy?
Hey, man, how you doing?
Fine. I mean, Josh was so pissed before our first game show started, where he's just like, I'm mad I even have to talk about this game, because it was just so written in the stars with what the 2 prongs. It's like the Mavs are either going to hit shots early and make it a competitive game, or they're going to look sluggish and shitty, and they're going to get dog walked.
Well, yeah, I like they weren't going to be able to muck this up and hang with them like in the trenches without PJ. Like once I saw PJ was out, even when Najee coming back, I was like, yeah, that's just
Right. They're going to
a
rely on a shooting
huge.
variance game, and then they just didn't. Then they didn't have the shooting variance game.
Yeah, that was just like a huge advantage on both ends that we just did not have. Like the way that they guarded us today, the way that they were sending to on the ball, whether it was Luka or Kyrie, and they were like, fine, we're just gonna like kill you with rotating super quick with like our low men that are all like 6'6" or shorter.
That's right.
And you just can't do that with PJ on the court because like either he's catching the ball in the corner and he's either gonna take the shot, and if not, if you close out to him, he's just gonna drive by you and he's gonna like finish over whatever little tiny guy you got waiting in the paint. He don't care about that. Um, yeah, there were some frustrating games played. I thought Luka was not great, but he wasn't like god awful. He had some silly turnovers in the first half, but other than that,
So did
Luka
everybody
was missing
else.
shots. Right. Well, that's the
Yeah.
other thing. Like, I thought Kyrie's passing was legitimately awful today. Like some of the worst I've seen him. Some of the worst passes I've seen him throw all season. Just
Refresh
like
my
off
memory.
target.
Did he have a bad series against Oklahoma City?
He had a poor shooting series.
Did like Jalen
against OKC.
Williams seemed to really put the clamps on him, if I'm remembering correctly.
There was some like Jay Will was able to stay in front of him and make it hard on him like with his length and like his strength and stuff, but he was like an incredible playmaker in that series and he was really good on defense. So he didn't have
He
like
was
a
good
bad
on
series
defense.
against
Yeah,
OKC.
for sure. I just meant offensively. I remember him struggling hardcore.
Yeah, no, the playmaking was there for him to the
Yeah.
point that it offset like some of the bad shooting stuff. So tonight he didn't really have either, and the defense was fine. He had like some plays that he made with his hands, like getting his hands on balls and like stripping the ball like mid shot stuff like that. But otherwise, Kyrie was just a dude out there for 3 quarters, and like you can't have that when nothing else really is going right. Derek Lively played really soft tonight, which is something I
The
don't like
numbers
having to say
don't
about him.
like. If you're a box score watcher, you're probably screaming at us for this Lively stuff because Josh and I thought the same thing, and it's just his impact this year has been odd.
Well, that's the thing. That's like I've been saying this for, and you can attest to it because I've been saying it on Twitter. I've been saying it. You haven't seen me say it on Blue Sky. I've been saying it like in the playback and stuff like that. The second most important player on our team right now is PJ Washington because he unlocks everything for us defensively. He does all the dirty work like on the boards. He is the one that is going and cleaning up the defensive boards when Lively and Gafford are chasing blocks on the opposite side. He's the one that is coming on the back end and playing weak side rim protector and like actually altering and blocking shots that the bigs just frankly don't see coming because they have their heads turned or they're focused on wherever the ball was.
Right.
And then like on offense, what he does for us as just like a fourth option that can attack with the ball in his hands from the perimeter, can make open jump shots, can punish smaller guys in the post. When you want to put your biggest guys on Kyrie and Luka to try and frustrate them and leave like a small on our wings, Clay can't really punish that. PJ does. That's his role. And so we sorely missed them tonight because all that Isaiah Joe shit that was going on, that would not be going on if PJ Washington was there. So, yeah, now I like there were some positives to take away from the game though. I thought Clay was he had some frustrating clanks in the first half, but outside of that, he shot the ball really well. He had a pretty solid game.
Yeah.
I thought Omax's energy was excellent. It was exactly what we needed. The fact that he hit those 2 corner threes was pretty cool. But even outside of that, his defense was pretty good. Like he seemed more focused in a way that it seems very difficult for him to be in longer stretches.
Right.
And like the fact that Kid was going with him towards the end, even over Maxey, like once he realized, okay, Maxey just doesn't have it tonight, like that's a huge improvement because normally, even if Maxey doesn't have it, if it's between those two, he's just going to leave Maxey in there to figure it out most times. So between the last game in Toronto and now this one, hopefully this is a nice trend where Omax can maybe steal a few of those minutes. And if Maxey doesn't have it on a given night or if he's not looking at the basket, one thing we know Omax is going to do is go out there and play hard.
Yes.
And that's what he did tonight. And it really showed up for us in some
It
stretches where we
mattered.
needed
It
it.
really because the game was probably a lot uglier if he doesn't get much burn.
Oh, yeah. No, just because the starters couldn't capitalize on
Mhm.
what he was doing doesn't mean that his play wasn't important. So if he can keep building confidence, that's really cool for us going forward. especially if you can have him come in and do that for, say, like 8 minutes a game behind PJ, who's going to be getting the bulk of those minutes.
Yeah.
Najee was awesome. Even, first game back off the illness, they gave him so many games off to, help him get his conditioning right. And I could see where it helped him out. He was pretty good. So him falling kind of right back into it was pretty nice. A little disappointed by the ground game. Frankly, he just missed shots. He had some kind of boneheaded plays.
He started
on
off
the ball.
in quicksand.
Yeah. He had some boneheaded plays on ball, but after that, like he was just doing what he was supposed to. And he was just missing shots from the wing and from the corner that I know he'll hit down the line. So I'm not too worried about that. We honestly, we just really missed, because even once we started getting things going, we just missed PJ as that point of attack defender that we can just, that junkyard dart. We can just say, look, whoever is scoring for them, go get them, and like just make it hard on them. You don't even have to slow them down. Just make it hard on them. And we didn't have anybody we could throw on Shea that could do that tonight. I think Najee will be better when he's coming in. He's batting cleanup behind PJ doing that. But tonight, Shea had an answer for everything. We did not have it, even in a night where J-Dub didn't play all that well. And Lively just got bitched by Alhart, like in the like.
And I was really worried about that.
It's just like he's an older, more experienced, like, and physically stronger player. So I was a bit concerned about that, but I mean,
Lively's rebounds are like, I've been complaining all year about Lively's defensive boards, and he gets a lot this game, but a lot of them were like coming directly to him. There weren't a lot of contested boards that he was winning. He was slapping at stuff like Dwight Powell. I was very, very frustrated watching him play.
He had some where he was high pointing the ball in the air, and like he's really good at that. And that's one of his strong points. That's cool. But
if you mistime it, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah, that's the thing. We need you to be able to sit down and box out.
There's not a single Maverick that can box anybody. None of these guys box anybody out. Like Luka,
it's literally PJ and Grimes.
Yeah,
and Grimes is like even better, just like chasing after the ball.
And like Luka actually is really fantastic at high pointing it too, which is funny because it's not like Luka's a leaper, but like he's just got really good timing, and plus he's a wide body. So if he's generally in the right area, he ends up with the ball. But he had a couple that were just taken from him. And there was just elements of a lack of toughness that the Mavericks had tonight. That drove me crazy.
Yeah, like all the rebounds that we had that were contested, that we would get the defensive boards, and they would slap out of that. Now, a lot of those were fouls, but you do it so much,
they're not
going to call all of them. Even the one where Ludor absolutely mugged Luka on the baseline, where there were like 2 fouls on, and you know exactly which one I'm talking about. But they're not going to call that all the time. You can't sit down on the ground and cry about it. You got to fight for the ball or get up and foul that dude. Like,
that's right.
That just is what it is. But yeah, there are people overreacting to this game. I think I saw Logan and Jack on Twitter having a back and forth talking about it, where they were just like, yeah, man, Logan said something to the effect of, this team beat us way worse in game 1 of the series.
Yeah, that game was so disheartening. And God,
I was mentally out of there after that one, because that
I was just like, can we fire Kid already? I'm so tired of losing game 1s because Kid doesn't want to show any cards once he finds something. I was kind
of there with you. And then what happened? We went and we won 4 of 5 straight games against them. So like it on the road, on the home, or at home.
And that's why, like, you were giving me grief earlier for blocking that Oklahoma City troll in the comments, and I'm just like, I don't have patience for people that don't make it out of the second round.
Oh, me? No, I wasn't giving you grief for blocking them. I was giving you grief for not blocking them soon enough. I don't interact with other team trolls after a loss. Yeah. That's y'all business. Go do that where y'all do that.
Like, you Mavs fans are weird talking about Mavs on the Mavs podcast. Like, go fuck yourself.
Like that's not even worth dignifying with a response. I ain't got nothing to say to that.
But look, man, this is a forward-facing podcast that acknowledges our fans and participants and our trolls.
That's true. That's true. Look, you do. It's like I said, I commend you for interacting with so many trolls.
Well, Lord knows when we'll play again. Apparently the 15th, which is a mile from now, which means I'm going to have to fill some space and figure out some other podcasts to do, just because I don't know. This cup thing is not for me. It's not.
I like it. I don't know if I like all the downtime.
It
I don't mind it for us because we need to be
disincentivizes
healthy.
it. Yes, and recovering from whatever plague they have.
Yeah, like get the Jimmy Butler flu out of here. I'm so tired. I don't want to see another person on the injury report.
I want somebody standing out of the
after this
Mavs
week.
bathroom. I want someone standing out of the Mavs bathroom, and their job is every time a Mavs player comes out of the bathroom, go, "Did you wash your hands?"
Man, hand out hand sanitizer, masks, whatever you got to do, bro. We not doing this no more. I'm sorry.
Love it, man. Thanks so much for hanging out. All right.
Of course, dude. Thanks for having me.
Talk soon. All right, Rain, tell me what's going on.
I know you're getting pretty tired, so I'll try and fire off the takes that I have. I'm
12:20.
I'm all over the place for this game. Look, it's the middle of the day here in Australia, so I'm gonna be honest. I was busy doing shit. I was paying a bit attention to the game when I could. I was missing wide stretches. I felt like I missed half a quarter of the second. I went, did his Luka touch the ball once?
No,
that happened a lot.
Same with Kyrie. It was both, where neither one was touching the ball, and I'm just like, what is happening?
So I'm going to get my Luka hating out of the way before I'm going to glaze him, because I've also got some opinions based on that podcast not based on that podcast, that have been brought to the forefront because of the one you did with, was it Jason Gallagher? Yeah. So one of the things I hate most about Luka is the way he lets the whistle get him. Sometimes he goes to make a point, he will do something he knows is going to get him fouled, doesn't get the whistle, gets pissed.
Yep.
And that's partially his own fault because of this reputation he has with the refs now. Now, Lou Dort fouls like a motherfucker.
Well, it's his profession.
And in this game, Luka went, okay, I know Lou Dort's going to foul the fuck out of me. I'm going to go stand in the corner because you can't be fucked dealing with the refs not giving me the calls. Now, maybe that's not at all. Maybe there was some sort of game plan that, the genius kid came up with, but that's basically what I saw. And am I a basketball savant? No. So was there something in there that I was probably missing? Sure.
Nah.
But as a fan, that's what it looked like to me. Lively. It's almost like at the start of the year, they said to him, look, we're not going to utilize you in the pick and the roll, because I've noticed that all year he's not been standing and taking the contact with the screen. He's been slipping it every time and rolling, and he stopped doing that halfway through last season, where he started actually accepting that contact to let Luka roll to the rim.
He was actually screening. His feet are too wide on all these screens, and they're calling him for what I think are really obvious offensive fouls.
Yeah, so again, I'm a relatively new basketball fan. I've only been into it for a couple of years, so there's something about the rules about if your base is too wide or something.
Yeah, if your legs are basically out past your shoulders, and like he's doing a thing where he's nearly doing, it's almost like it's hard to describe, but his legs are well out past his shoulders, and some of that's on the screener, I think. Or not screener, the person with the handling the ball, as in you're not bringing your man into the screen enough. But I honestly think it's Lively's fault. He's just not doing this correctly.
It is on their fault, but I think physiology plays a little part in that. If you just look at him, he's not a very particularly wide 7-footer. I don't think his shoulder width is quite. He's not as bad as what was that
like all of our other centers. I don't know. I feel like after watching some of our other centers the past few years, he's fine.
I'm just looking. If you look at his shoulder width, compared to for his stance, for the length of his legs compared to his shoulder width, for him to keep that stance within that is very difficult.
Okay,
I would think so. But yeah, that's just something I've noticed about the way that he's been screening all season. Maybe it's also because he's just afraid of getting fouled. But it's weird that he's just having games where sometimes the box score looks like he's having the impact, and then when you go back or if you look at the game, it didn't really look like he was having that impact.
Yeah.
The team's been doing these dumb, weird fouls, which look, hopefully they'll figure it out. But I want to get to some Luka glazing now.
Let's go for it. All right, go right ahead.
So I haven't been doing too very much of this, but my current favorite pastime is to bring up how, and not just Jokic, because it's happening for Giannis too, where he's also, second in these MVP leaderboards, and I go, but team success matters, guys. And then when people turn around, oh, but look at his stats, and I go, well, are you new here? Because this is the same argument that's been going across Luka for the last couple of seasons.
Right.
Let's just be honest. If Giannis or Jokic right now had that 73-point game happen to them tomorrow, they will win that MVP guaranteed, regardless of seeding. I'm fairly confident in saying that. If they have a 60-point triple-double, going back to that 73-point game, the narrative, how Embiid had his 70-point performance, and Luka has his, and immediately there's something wrong with the NBA. The foul calls is ridiculous. Even though the fouls in that game weren't that bad.
No, the fouls weren't even the thing. Luka was murdering them from the 3-point line. He barely, I think he shot 12 free throws. That was a nothing burger.
Exactly. And he even kept up his scoring. I'm pretty sure his scoring averages even went up after the way they started.
Yeah, they were the only ones that stayed within the same line. Yeah.
So, to anyone who says that last year he was not better than Jokic, I'm sorry. Jokic's numbers was something like 26, 12, and 9. And yeah, when the 7-footer is getting 2 or 3 more rebounds than the 6'7" guy, I'm sorry, whoop-de-fucking-do. Yes, he has better efficiency. Yes, he can throw the kitchen sink stat at you, which... Come on, let's be honest. What the fuck are we doing here? Kitchen sink? That's an actual statistic. This year, does Luka deserve that MVP right now? No.
Where he's not even in the discussion.
Definitely infuriating. How the narrative. Yes. I know there is no set criteria, but the way that the criteria changes from year to year, and it just always so happens to be the one that plays against Luka. It is incredibly infuriating.
Sure.
Last year, he probably should have won MVP. I feel like they pretty much got to the end of the year and went, he's on the top, Jokic's top 3 seed. He's got really good stats again. We fucked up last year, gave it to Embiid when he didn't deserve it. We'll give him the third MVP that he did deserve the year prior, 100%. So, yeah, that's pretty much that's my problem with the narrative. And look, at this point, could Jokic and the Nuggets or the Bucks turn it around and be a top 5 seed? But I'm sorry, if they give it to anyone and they're not a minimum of a top 4 seed or a 50+ win team, I'm gonna riot. I will riot. I'm in a completely different country to you guys, but I'm gonna be honest. That guy in New York, a little bit inspirational. I'm gonna leave that comment there.
Trying to get me in trouble, Rain. Just kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah. Look, we don't really have guns here, so that's also not
true. He
true.
3D printed the thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Sorry, we're off topic.
I'm very off topic. I'm going to be honest. I don't pay too much attention to that. I don't have enough time in my life. Basketball and work consumes so much time but the memes for that have been fantastic.
So funny. The internet's peak. Yeah.
But yeah, the narratives this season are insane. So yes, is Jokic having the best season? Yes, Giannis is having one of his best seasons. That shot, that sort of mid-range turnaround shot he's added to his game is actually quite scary when you think about what their
for Giannis.
For Giannis, yes.
Oh yeah.
For what their missteps have been in the playoffs is how he can't really operate in a half-court setting, and he's got that shot in the playoffs. Well, shit, that's kind of scary. So, that is very legitimately scary. As for this game, there's not too much to take away. Hey, maybe Omax might be playable for 5 to 10 minutes a game, and maybe in 2-3 years from now, he might be a legitimate rotational player. That's pretty much what we learned. Maybe. Other than that, there's not too like anyone who's getting really mad about this game. I don't know what to tell you. This game doesn't look like to me like it's gonna be a 6 or a 7 game losing streak. Yeah, we have some built-in excuses. I don't really give too much of a shit about those either. As long as the next game they came out and they don't look super flat again, and Luka doesn't go back on a slide of having games like this, then it's fine. Yeah, the world's not on fire. Things are fine. That's how I want to end my take.
Well, thank you so much for waiting to talk and hanging out. Okay.
No worries. Thanks, Kirk.
All right. Talk to you. Up next is my man Henry. Henry, I've not talked to you in a really long time. Did I ever tell you that the magnesium worked for me for my eye twitch?
Oh, which one? The glycinate or the magnesium breakthrough?
I don't remember. I don't even remember what I have upstairs, but I took it for about 2 weeks and then all of a sudden my eye twitch stopped. So congratulations for helping me.
No, you're all good. And you sleep like a baby afterwards. So it helps with that. And you get like really deep restful sleep.
Is that why I'm not waking up with the baby stuff and my wife kind of wants to murder me?
Yeah. It's magnesium. Knocks you right clean the fuck up.
We're not telling her this. Okay.
Yeah. But
she's like, you can have a fucking eye twitch. You're waking up with a baby.
Yeah, it's so crazy, fam. But I'm back on my fire kid train. It's just the style of play doesn't fit, and I'm specifically just mean we can pretty much kill anybody else. I'm not worried about anybody else. But OKC and Boston, 5 out wide, constant schemes, constant I feel like I'm watching 2 different eras or 2 different styles of basketball. To when I watch Kid doesn't really have a scheme or an offensive step or an identity, but watching them and then watching Mark Dagenau and then watching Boston do it, it feels like I'm watching 2 totally different teams.
I mean, Dallas gave away, number 1, PJ didn't play. Number 2, Luka and Kyrie were passive and awful, and neither was put in a position to succeed where they didn't make their own play.
But see, that comes back down to Kid. Why do you know for a fact Lou Dort plays football? He plays Madden 05 with the hit stick.
I mean, I have to think that I'm not disagreeing with you on the principle because I think we're actually on the same page. It's just I think he's willing to see the regular season loss and say, you know what, bring it in the playoffs and we'll see how it goes.
I'm not even because bro, this defense with Caruso, you have Caruso.
The Thunder are much better, and I don't know what the Mavericks do.
And that's 3 defensive people that you can leave on an island with Luka and Kai. And then if you somehow get past them, you got Chet waiting on you in the background. It's not finna get any better or any easier for it. And Mark Dagenau, did you watch his interview when he was speaking with the TNT cast about what he was going?
I didn't. Tell me.
When Mark Dagenau speaks, he sounds like the smartest guy in the room. Either that or he's an arrogant asshole. But anytime he answers it, it seems like he's giving a concise and thoughtful answer. Mm-hmm. He might genuinely believe he's the smartest guy anytime he walks into a room. I mean, they were pretty much blitzing, sending the double any single time to get the ball out of their hands. I don't know why. Okay, did Kid not want to give SGA the same treatment, or did you feel like he couldn't blitz 2 at the ball with the way OKC were playing?
Ooh, I don't think they could blitz 2 at the ball. I also think they want a whole. I'm glad you brought that up because the post-game interview, the lady who was talking to the whole Thunder team with SGA right there said, you dealt with lots of doubles. And I was like, I don't remember any doubles.
Yeah, no, they were not blitzing SGA in the slightest. He shot 15 for 23. He did not miss.
They did not get the ball out of his hands whatsoever. I don't know. And
we absolutely, and again, and I'm obviously team Kyrie. I'm clearly Kyrie fan club. I came over when he came over, and I'm not saying this to be mean. In both instincts. 1, I think Luka quit tonight. I'm got to be honest. I think Luka quit tonight. That's kind of just what I felt. And 2, as much as I would want Kyrie to stay here and re-sign, which you probably will, I don't know if it works out. Not even just because it's bad or I want them to split up. I really don't. I just feel like the perfect lineup around Luka, and it's not going to happen. But let's say it was Luka, Clay, Dorian Finney, I don't know, Lauri Markkanen.
No, because you got to have guys like you see how effective. They ran a little bit in the 4th quarter with Luka as a short roll guy, doing some off ball action stuff. Luka cut to the basket a couple of times. It's there just needs to be some real honest to God film sessions about him. It's Luka, look, man, you're still going to get Luka only had 5 assists, but the ball started popping in the fourth quarter when they're like moving it around. Kyrie hit those 2 corner threes. Luka got the hockey assist on both of them. There's, I'm sure Luka wants his numbers.
Fan 1, 2, 3. Shut your bitch ass up in the chat until you come up here on the thing. I don't want to hear you speak. Sit. All right, go ahead.
So I think there's stuff that I will just suffice it to say, I understand the kid frustration. I saw this one coming a mile away. And if they go out and win the rest of these games, the thing that kid seems to have a knack for that we just actually do have to give him credit for is he seems to have a great feel for when the team can and should peak. And like against the Toronto the other night, he nearly let them blow the game. And he did, because you go read the YouTube comments to that podcast. It's so funny. People are like, "Why do you hate Kid?" And I'm like, because they lost a 24-point lead against a 7-win team, and they didn't use a timeout. And I'm just like,
he's notorious for not doing that shit. I still don't understand it.
But because to him, this is all like, to him, it's an 82 game. It's an 82 level video game where each level you're gaining something else that will take you further in the playoffs, and you will learn to do this within your own structure, and you won't need Kid, or Kid is, saving his micromanaging stuff. Because like Luka got sick of Carlisle's micromanaging bullshit. He's saving the micromanaging for when it really counts.
I wish Rick Carlisle had this roster, because he's an X and O's genius. He runs circles around Kid's bald ass.
On offense, maybe I do, but I'm on defense. Carlisle hasn't had a good defensive team since the 2011 title team. So
hey, we can move Kid to defensive coordinator if that one. Bring Rick Carlisle. I don't think Kid should. He failed miserably in Brooklyn. Somehow failed even worse in Milwaukee. Then when he hired Budenholzer, they won a title within like 2 years. Like, his coaching resume is not spectacular. He knows basketball. He knows the NBA, but his
I just think the season's so long, man. The season's so long, and there's so many hiccups and so many little things that happen that I'm sure we don't even know about. Like, we didn't talk about this much in this podcast, but they talked about, like, once the team fell to 5-7, and then they went on a win streak. And after like a 3-point, and this was before the Miami loss, but somewhere in there, PJ Washington let it slip that they had a players only meeting, and they figured it out and they got it together. And teams that are actually functional, you don't hear about stuff like that until they're ready for you to hear it. And look, I've been a Kid detractor for most of my time that he's been with the team, but I also have to give him some benefit of the doubt. And they started the season the way I wanted them to. They're 16-9 right now, or whatever it is. Like, there's still a long way to go. 25 games. Well, if they win like 57 or 58 games, like, I'm just going to be ecstatic, man. And we'll see.
He says Rick's coaching style is outdated, fam. Atlanta and
Rick's personality style is outdated. Like Luka fucking hated that guy.
I get that. There's a certain why does Indiana and Atlanta consistently beat Cleveland, beat Boston? Like, there are far less talented teams that consistently beat some of these top tier teams. Like, I just feel like we need to implement. I don't know, and I think you said this maybe last year sometime. Kid consistently has them underprepared, and again, I don't know if this is part of his genius plan to like get the kinks and like figure some things out to have it loaded in the war chest or whatnot, but he consistently has them underprepared and annoys the absolute shit out of them.
They came out like Josh said it. I liked what Josh Bo said in another podcast, because I was bitching about the game plan, and he goes, "Well, it was vanilla game. It was a vanilla game plan paired with a vanilla effort."
What did they think was going to happen tonight, though? Like, I don't understand what
my working theory, and I'm guessing you didn't hear the first half of the pod. My working theory is that they came out and thought and decided. This is just theory, but they decided was that we're going to run our basic stuff, and if we're hitting our shots, we can hang with Oklahoma City, and then we'll try to see if we can make a game out of this.
But the thing is I feel like Dallas only knows how to play one way.
But they do think about the easy button stuff we never see them do. They do not run Kyrie Luka screen and rolls.
True.
That is a vicious play that they can just smash when it works.
Are we saving it for the playoffs, or why?
Yes.
Okay.
I hate it, but that's what they're like. Omax was like he was the only player with a positive plus minus. They pulled
that's
Omax
the
after
one
he hit.
positive for tonight. I didn't see a single fucking Maxey minute. That was the one
Oh,
positive.
he was out. He's out with whatever plague PJ and everyone else has.
That's fine. Stay gone. But Omax was just he's and people think I'm crazy for saying that. He's like the Kawhi in San Antonio. He may be a B+ version of it, but like he moves his feet and he defends without fouling so well. Like the block chase down in Toronto that he had. Like Omax is amazing.
We had a guy on the last podcast. His name is Michael. He's a Mavs Moneyball writer, and he described Omax as playing at 1.75 speed.
I love it. I love Omax so much. I hope we don't do the Jimmy Butler thing. That's
nah. His contract is enormous. The only way they could do the math is if they move Kyrie, and that ain't happening. That's mainly because, I think Jimmy would want to come here, and I think that he just wants to be closer to home.
Yeah, I think he probably goes to Houston. Houston makes the most sense. But again, I was saying it earlier, but I know Kyrie's going to resign, and I have no problem with him doing it. But I don't think if he wants to win another title, I think he probably has to do it elsewhere. And it's not because they don't work. It's not because nothing. I just feel like to build the team around Luka, you would need like Luka, Clay, Dorian, PJ. Like you would need like big 6'7", 6'8" across the board. And I think that's probably like a better fit for him. And honestly, Kid, I don't think Kid would be better off coaching Tyrese Halliburton. Like, I don't think he knows what to do with Luka per se. I feel like Kid would be a better coach with Halliburton, Trae Young, kind of like more of that. But
well, I appreciate the fire take. This is a great. It's what the late night podcast is for.
Fan 1, 2, 3. You hated Kyrie when he get here. Don't try to switch up and play.
That's true.
Now.
No, he's grown to love him.
Can we put a ban button on this? Like,
no, it's a reluctant love. All right. Thanks so much, man. We'll talk soon.
Yep.
All right, my man Matei. What's going on tonight, brother?
Hey, Kirk. How you doing?
Bro, tonight. What time is it in Slovenia?
It's 7:45 a.m. It's
so you've just been
morning.
up since like 3 a.m?
I've been up since 4. Woke up like 20 minutes after the game started, watching it on League Pass, and
just
then
like
I
the
just
Mavericks.
caught up. I actually prefer starting the game a bit later so I can just skip all the breaks in the game and catch like the.
That's right. Catch up by the fourth quarter. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, or the fourth quarter. Like I can start actually on League Pass. That's interesting. I can start watching it like an hour and 20 minutes later. So basically, like at the halftime, the end of the halftime, and still catch the last quarter live, last 5 minutes live. So that's how long NBA games are. But yeah, I mean, like it was an interesting debate with the captain of Team Kyrie right before me. I mean, he said like what his thoughts about what team Luka needs around him. He also needs ball handlers around him. He also needs a ball handler like Kyrie, exactly like Kyrie. Now, would it be excellent if Kyrie was 6'7"? Yeah, then it's game over. Like because he was mentioning bigger guys, sure. Like Kyrie is a smaller guard, and that presents certain issues on defense for the Mavericks. But what he brings as another ball handler next to Luka, and I think he understands very well the gravity Luka brings to his game that Luka has, that brings like what it gives to his game, the spacing it gives him, the room to operate, to maneuver. I don't think Kyrie feels neglected as far as Mavs offense goes in the smallest bit. I do think that I agree with the team captain Kyrie, team captain, that Kid is not maximizing Luka and Kyrie on offense. We already know that. I mean, we've been wanting to see more Luka screening, and you talked about this in here as well. Luka screening, Luka in the short roll, Luka used in different ways, off ball, coming off.
It can't just be him standing 40 feet from the basket.
It can't just be him standing in the corner. He was standing in the corner a lot in this game. I mean, just sure, like he's got a defender next to him, but you can utilize Luka a lot better and a lot more than they did so far. But I also agree with you. Kid is not using everything at his disposal at this point of the season. I mean, like, I'm as frustrated with Kid as every fan, as pretty much every Mavs fan. We all know his deficiencies, so to speak. We all know what his problems are. But at the same time, he has shown he does have some sort of a grand vision, scheme, like does have his eyes on the goal, on the prize, which is playoffs and finals and ultimately a chip. And 2 conference finals, one conference finals in 3 years does show that he does have some sort of a vision. And again, I'm as frustrated by lack of, things I'd like to see on offense as every fan is. But yeah, at the same time, he has shown enough to deserve some credit here. And the team has been playing well enough this season without Luka, with Luka lately, that I can disregard this game as a bad game, as there are many reasons we can, sort of ascribe to this game for this loss, the traveling, the tiredness, the virus going through the team. So yeah, I'm not that pissed off about this game. Would I like to see them win the cup, go further, like you and Gallagher talked in your pod yesterday, which was great as well. I mean, I have to say, I told you already, but I can say it here as well.
Thank you.
I mean, it would help with the narratives, with the Luka narratives especially, but keep your eyes on the prize. And I think Kid is doing that. He's looking, this season from much further away. He's not micromanaging as much as I would like him to. He's macro-managing and looking at the big picture. And another thing I wanted to say, I forgot his name. Simon, Simon, who was talking, that sort of got me pissed because he said that Luka has to be more consistent, that other players like Jokic, Giannis, I think he mentioned SGA as well, they don't have bad games. And I just like to say that last year when Jokic became the MVP, he had a stretch of back-to-back games, 2 losses, where he shot 9 for 32.
It was one of the worst. I remember this. It was like he was dying.
And then the next game right after that, 9 for 26, 34%, and broke a record for most missed shots for a center in a 2-game stretch since George Mikan. So like, doesn't have bad games. Everybody has bad games. I just saw Giannis lose to Atlanta and miss 12 free throws, 15 for 27. Like, he shot from the free throw line. SGA this season, he's had a game where he shot 6 for 17. He's had a game where he shot 7 for 19. Pretty much same percentages, less rebounds and assists and more turnovers in one game than Luka had tonight. So everybody has bad games. And that's just another narrative that I would like to disperse, that only Luka has bad games. And I think he had a very consistent season last year. He's not there yet this year. I'm hoping he's going to get there, but there are reasons for that as well. Health primarily, but also the changes he's made to his game, to his approach, less touches, less time of possession, less dribbles per touch. That, I think, also had a small effect on his, struggles this year. Not a big one. I'm not going to say that, missing layups and missing his push shots in the paint next to the rim, like he's missing stuff he shouldn't be missing there, and he's got to get better, although he's been better lately except for this game. But overall, again, I think there's a big picture here we have to keep in mind and wait, inhale, exhale, let this game go by, see how they play, when they get some rest now, and hopefully they'll get a bit more rest, at least a little bit more rest if they would be playing the finals as well. That would make their schedule maybe even harder, and maybe that wouldn't be good for them in the long run. I think Kyrie needs a bit of a break as well. It wouldn't hurt to rest him for a game or two.
It's been a lot. It really has been a lot of basketball. My wife is kind of complaining where it seems like I've been working every other night for a month and a half. And there's usually there's some breaks where it's like 2 days off, 3 days off. We just didn't have those. And, I'm going to be interested to see how the rest treats the Mavericks, because what the NBA Cup does is it does allow, it breaks up the season kind of into thirds, where you have the first 25 games in the NBA Cup. Then you have the next 25 games and you have the All-Star game. And then you have the final third of the season. And, obviously the math isn't exactly right because there's 82 games in the season. But this is an interesting rest point for the Mavericks. Hopefully they get healthy. I mean, I have a great deal of appreciation for the Thunder as a team, because one thing I do think that Henry, he made a good point on, where it's just the Mavericks don't seem to know what to do against a true 5-out team. To be fair, neither does anyone else. So
they didn't beat them in the playoffs last year.
They did. But where they went and got, they got better. And so did the Mavericks. But I think the Thunder, the Thunder got better in ways where they were really hurting. And so the Mavericks losing the rebounding battle tonight just kind of makes me sick,
That's bad. Can't do that.
Yeah. The turnovers were sloppy, and
just those two things.
Yeah.
Rebounds and turnovers. If they cut down on the turnovers, 21 more shots OKC took. You can't win. You can shoot 10% better than they did, and you'd still lose if you give an opponent 21 more shots. Right. 30, 36, 38 points off turnovers. OKC scored. Just cut that down in half, win the rebounding battle, and they win this game. And those are two very doable things. Those are things that they actually can and should do in the next two games. 2 more games against OKC this season as well, and I think they'll look much better in the next one.
And I hope so. Though I also just sort of need, and I was complaining about this, I'll probably just continue to complain until I know exactly when the Mavericks play again. I need this stuff on the schedule so I can figure out what I'm going to do with my life. Hey man, thanks so much for talking. You and I'll do a longer show at some point. We need to give, it's funny. We have a writer, we're at the tail end of a 2-hour show, so I don't mind telling people this. We have a writer who has turned in it's like a 4,000 word piece on Luka and the MVP. And I'm just I need a good stretch of games from Luka so that we can run it. It's not that I could justify publishing it right now, but it works when Luka is kicking the shit out of people. And we haven't had, would you say we've had a signature Luka game yet?
Signature Luka games are 60, 20, 10.
That's true.
73
the standard's really high.
That's the standard Luka set for his signature games. And
that's a good point. Well, is there a game where you go, that's my favorite Luka game of the season?
He's had good games, but
he has.
Not a signature. He didn't have, but he's still averaging what, 28, 8, and 8.
Oh, his numbers are off the charts. That's just
that's. We've been sort of spoiled by Luka in a way.
Absolutely,
he's got the standard so high that 28, 8, and 8 looks pedestrian, looks like average almost, and it's still that's. He's still a top 5 stat. He's got still a top 5 stat line in the league. Yeah. If you're looking, his percentages got a bit better lately. It's not Luka we expect. That's a fact. But he's nowhere near as bad as some would make it seem. So, but not a true signature game. And I'm still waiting for that one, hoping it's gonna come. But then again, it's a quarter of a season. We got 60 more, almost 60, 59, 58 more games. We'll see how he's playing. I don't care about now. I want to see him in the top shape in the playoffs. That's where he hasn't been himself last few years. And if he isn't himself in the beginning of a regular season, I don't care, as long as he'll be himself in the playoffs. and lower usage, lower touches, all of that, maybe a bit lower stats because of that as well. I don't mind it as long as, they keep their eyes on the prize. I already said it. I don't care about MVP. I already know he, considering the narratives, it's actually going to be hard for him to get one, no matter what he does. But I'm still hoping for a few finals MVPs. Those are the ones, and I think those are the ones Luka's looking at as well. Like, sure, he'd like an MVP. I mean, he definitely would. But, I mean, if he finishes, if he finishes his career with 3 finals MVPs or 3 rings, couple of finals MVPs, he'd be much happier than having 3 MVPs. Yep. So keep your eyes on the prize, fans.
All right, man. Hey, thanks for staying up. Thanks for waking up early to talk with us. Over the past several shows,
staying up and tolerating me ranting at this hour.
This is the best.
Coffee.
Over the last several shows, we've had you from Slovenia. We've had Sudarshan in India. We've had Rain in New Zealand. We have my man, Mr. Green, and his farm in Australia. This is a worldwide show. We're having a great time. Talk soon, man.
It's a global game. It's a global sport, and fans from all over the world are loving the Mavs. That's worth something as well.
You're the man. Talk soon.
Talk soon. Bye.
Oh, hey, Sam's down there. Sam, are you up late?
I am. I wasn't gonna jump in, but I kind of got hot because I kind of wanted to jump in on this Luka narrative thing too, because like everybody else, I did watch the show that you did with Jason the other day, which I thought was great.
Thank you. Hopefully fair. I've been checking the people during the show. I've been scrolling through some of the Twitter feeds that seem to have a vendetta for me, and I've not made any of their hate lists, so that's nice.
Hey, fuck. But it's funny because I was actually gonna make a video about this last year, and I just never got around to it because everybody keeps bringing up the whole 73-point game thing, where it's literally a week before Joel Embiid had 70 against the Spurs, which at that time, even though they had Wemby, they were the worst defense in the league, and nothing was brought up about it.
So many free throws.
Luka scored 73 against, granted, a bad Atlanta defense. And the thing that really pissed me off about that was the next day Stephen A. Smith was talking about, oh, this is a travesty. Atlanta's so bad. It's like Luka got no credit. It's just hey, Luka just had 73 against, 73, that's what, the 4th most all time?
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't get no credit. Meanwhile, I remember Damian Lillard had a game where he had 68 against the Rockets the year before. Nothing.
Yep.
Donovan had 70 against the Bulls. Nothing. But for some reason, this Slovenian white guy has 73. Is what's the problem? And I like Jokic. Trust me, he's the best player in the league. I'm not even gonna act like he's not. He's the best player in the league. But some of the stuff that comes out with him is, the plus minus. How I know, granted, they have a bad roster, but it's when you kind of stack the roster a certain way or stack the players a certain way, where it's just all the starters playing, or it's all the bench playing, or it's 4 starters and 1 bench player playing. It's his numbers are going to get inflated. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying that's right. It's just the way that it is. And at some point, we got to recognize, you said it the other day, just have some balls. If you don't like Luka, cool.
Yeah, I don't care.
I don't care. Hey.
I fucking hate Joel Embiid, the basketball player. It's so freeing. I don't have to act like he's this wonderful humanitarian I have to love and endure. I think he's a giant crybaby asshat. It's so, say it about Luka. Just say it. I don't care. You'll feel better. You'll feel freer.
Right. I hated 2017 and 2019 James Harden. Hated him.
Hated him
so
much.
Don't hate the player. No, don't hate the person. I don't know him personally. Even though you see stuff, but I don't know him.
Right.
I hate the player. I hate the foul grift, and I hate all that stuff. I hated him, but I can't deny his greatness. The man.
That's true.
So it's just basketball discourse nowadays. It sucks because I think with us fans, we kind of turned the NBA into the NFL in a way. Every game means something, which in a way it does, but it doesn't because it's 82 of them. I mean, NFL is only 16 out or 17 now, 17 games. So it's kind of like every game matters. But like with the way we digest it, you got playback now where you can come on stage with other fans and just talk about the game, and like every game is the biggest deal. And you have one bad moment in the game, and it's like, oh, see, he's not the best anymore. I mean, Luka, he came in tonight. You have an SGA, like an MVP candidate, and he looked horrible. And SGA looked dominant. So now the narrative's going to be, see, you put him in a big stage, he can't do what he can do. And especially because it was a quote-unquote cup game, it's like, oh, man, he really stood out and sucked. So now you think he's kind of climbing back on that ladder a little bit. Now it's like, all right, unless he goes on that 50-game stretch that he always does every year, he's probably not going to win it, which, whatever.
Yep.
I want
That's right.
That's what I want. If he gets an MVP, cool. And I feel like, because I really thought this year, just with the way last year ended, they got to the finals, I really thought this year was set up to say, hey, okay, you come out hot, your team starts off hot, you're going to win the MVP. I feel like that narrative would have been there for him to win the MVP if he came out hot, but obviously he was hurt. Don't know how much of the injury really affected him. He was out of shape. He's always out of shape. And that is going to, you said, the narrative is going to stick that he's always out of shape. So when he comes in a certain way and he doesn't play a certain way, because, I mean, compared to what we know him to play, well, he was averaging 28 and like 7 and 8. That's great for anybody else but him.
Yes.
So that's just the standard that he has, which, again, is not fair. But, hey, when you are who you are, you got to live up to that standard. I mean, look at Jordan. Michael Jordan was best, and every year he lived up to that standard, even when he got older. You can still say, all right, you know what he's going to do every game in and game out.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, it is what it is. I just want to come in and comment because everybody got me hyped up about it. So
I love it.
That's my 2 cents.
I'm glad you came. All right, man. We'll talk soon. Thanks for hanging out.
Have a good night.
All right. Guys, told you the group therapies are more fun. Hour and 20 minutes. Everybody be good. I don't know what we're going to do until the next show. Maybe I'll have another one-off episode, invite somebody else. We'll see. Everybody be good. Talk to you soon, and go Mavs.